Hi everyone, and welcome to my video on the Argus 75. This is the same camera as the Argus 75 with numbers and the Argoflex 75. There were three different iterations along the lifespan of this camera. This is a twin lens reflex toy type camera, and I'm putting toy in air quotes because even though it's a very basic camera, it can still take some extremely good photos. It's very, like I said, when I say it's basic, I mean it's very basic. It has 2 shutter speeds, excuse me, no light meter. The shutter speeds, there's one shutter speed that is instant, which is about 1/45th, 1/50th of a second, depending on which model you have, and shutter speed marked time, which is actually bulb. The viewfinder frame coverage is unknown, but it's fairly close. Looking through the viewfinder, it's fairly close to 100% with a little bit of offset because of the parallax. The magnification is somewhere in the range of 55%. The viewfinder itself is 33 millimeters by 33 millimeters. And it has a plane focusing mat and an M-bulb flash sync. So that's the camera in general. It was targeted when it was made for entry-level camera users, and you can tell that based on its simple construction, basic construction material, very simple functionality and interface. And when it was released, it cost $15, give or take, and $19 with the flash. It was produced by Argus from 1949 to 1964. From 1949 through 1952, and then being sold, manufactured through 52, sold into 1953. This was called the Argoflex 75, with 75 spelled out. From starting to be produced in 1952 until 1958 was the Argus 75, again with 75 spelled out like is on this one. So this camera was produced sometime between 52 and 58. And then after 1958, from 1958 until 1964, it was simply called the 75 in numbers. From 49 through 58, it was black, and then from 58 through 64, it was brown. And these are produced in the USA. Prior to this model camera, Argus produced the Argoflex EF and Argoflex 40. At the same time, they produced a number of rangefinders, such as the C4R, C44, and C44R. They also produced a model of this called the Super 75, and it was followed by, well, nothing. After these cameras, Argus stopped making cameras, and I believe that they went out of business. I'm not entirely positive what happened to Argus after 1964. So we're going to take a look here at the camera's features, and we're going to start on the top. So on the top, you can orient yourself because there's the Argus logo right there. And this is the viewfinder cover. So it flips up like this, and then you look through the viewfinder. You can see there, looking off screen a little bit at my backdrop, and you can look through the viewfinder to see approximately what you're going to take a picture of. Then on the top, we also have the back release, which is that little clip right there in front of my index finger. On this model, on this camera specifically, it's very difficult to trip the back release. And I don't know if that's the way it is on all of them or just mine. Then you also have on the top the camera straps. And the strap on this camera is built into the camera's body. So if it breaks, then you're left with just a couple of straps hanging out there. Unfortunately, too, because this is kind of a cheesy camera strap, although this is also a fairly lightweight camera, so it's not one that's really going to cut into your neck too badly or anything like that. On the front of the camera, we've got, we've got the viewing lens up here at the top. So when you look through the viewfinder at the top, you're actually seeing the light coming in through this top lens. And then this bottom lens is the taking lens, and this is the lens that the light that travels through to hit the film plane. So when I talked about parallax earlier, What that means is that, let's say that I have my finger in front of the camera right here. You're not going to be able to see it through the viewfinder because my finger's not in front of the viewfinder lens. And so this taking lens focuses from 7.5 feet out to infinity. But if you're close, within about 13 or 14 feet of the lens, then there's going to be some parallax issue where what you see through the viewfinder is not going to align perfectly with what you see in the lens. The shutter speed, this is the shutter release button right here, and you can set the shutter speed between instant, which is slightly different depending on the model you have, and time. Time is actually bulb. Sorry about that, I'm still recovering from whatever has been plaguing me the last almost month now. What time in its actual meaning is push the button, shutter stays open, push the button, shutter closes. Bulb is hold the shutter button down and the shutter's open the whole time. This functions like bulb, but is marked as time. Then we also have on the camera's back, and I have a piece of plastic here to cover it. Modern films are much more sensitive to red light than films that came out when this camera was made. But on the camera's back, all we have is the red window. And that's my GameStop power card. So it shows you how much I use that. At least it's part of it. Have it on some other cameras as well. So all that's on the back of it is the film counter window. On the film bottom, all that we have is the tripod bushing. On this side, which is the right side when you're facing the camera, this is where the flash plugs into the camera. It uses M bulbs, and I don't think you can get those bulbs anymore, so if you have a flash, I don't know that it's really going to do you too much good. I did see instructions online on how to modify one of the flash mounts to take modern electronic flashes. I don't know how to do that, and I'm not going to try it, so I apologize, there won't be a video on that. If you want to try it on your camera, though, there are tutorials online you can find. And then on this side, we have the film advance knob. And I'll show you the whole, how to use this a little bit later in the video, and the whole sequence for taking a picture. Inside the camera, and it's going to be a little bit tricky here to open this, I think. Typically is. I'm going to use a binder clip as a lever, because it's convenient. There we go. And inside the camera, what we have is the film take-up spool right here. This is where this is the image area, and then we have the loading plane for the new film right here. Now there's one thing I want to point out while we're inside the camera here, and you should be able to see if I hold the light right here. There's stamped 5211-3. And that indicates that this camera was made in 1952, either November 3rd or March 11th. I'm honestly not sure which. This is my only copy of it, so I can't compare it to other ones. Not all of the 75s have that stamp, but if you do, it's an indication about when yours was made. I'm fairly certain this means it was November 3rd. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not positive, but that's your date code on some of these cameras. So like I said, this is called a toy camera, but it's actually quite a capable performer. And one thing about this camera, though, is that it uses 620 film, and I don't know why I just closed the camera. I've got to open it back up right now. It uses 620 film. So in order to use this camera, now, you will have to get some 620 spools like this and some 620 backing paper, and you can get these things off eBay or other similar sites, and then some 120 film. 120 film is the same as 620 film. It's that the paper backing is slightly narrower on 620, and the spool size is substantially different on 620. 120 spools will not fit into this. They're both too fat, or too long and too fat. It's a very, very tight space in here. And so you then would have to take 120 film and re-spool it onto 620 spools. I have a video on that, which I will try to remember to link to in the description. But you will need to have the spools and the paper. So I'm going to load the film now, and I've loaded a bunch of Lucky brand or Shanghai brand or whatever it was film onto a 620 spool with some Verichrome paper backing, and that works out pretty nicely. And this is actual live film because I'm going to use this camera later this week. I'm going to advance the film take up until this loads nicely, and then advance here. Now, because this is going to be actual used film, I'm not going to advance it the whole way right now. What I'm going to do is show you how to use this camera. So, here you are, you're using the camera, and you're looking through the viewfinder, and oh hey look, there's some pictures of the studio lamps that I want to take a picture of. So, looking at the camera right now, you might be able to see that in front of the taking lens, the shutter's turned red. And I don't know, I'm hoping you can see that, but there's a red flag in front of the behind the glass, but in front of the shutter on the taking lens. And that red flag says that you're ready to take a picture. So look through, line up your picture, activate the shutter, and now you cannot activate the shutter again and take a double exposure. There's a double exposure prevention built into the film advance. So now I advance the film one click, and even though it's not completely advanced, it's ready to take another picture, I just can't do it right away. So you advance the film to your next shot, and let me make sure I don't actually have a frame in there just yet. If you're going to use time, push it down and hold it, just like bulb, and as soon as you release, it's ready to go. For loading your film, I know I'm skipping around a little bit here, but for loading your film, you can see the red window there. I'm going to advance to frame number 1. It's just taking a long time because I didn't actually advance as far as normal. But with 120 and 620 film, you read your film numbers through your red window right there, and you can see the number 1. And once you take your picture, then you advance this knob until you get to frame number 2. And you keep going, and then it'll take 12 6x6 frames, and afterwards you take the spool out and you reclose it, you know, put it in your pocket and then take it to get developed, or develop it yourself if you're adventurous. And if you've never developed film, I strongly recommend it. It's a good and fun thing to do. Excuse me. So that's really it in a nutshell for this camera. A few notes on it. The camera has a lot of heft. It's very, very heavy for its size. And that's because even though it has a plastic body, it has a metal back. So the back and the bottom cover are metal, and they're on a very decent hinge. Now that means when you open this camera, you don't want to just let the back swing freely, because that can tweak the hinge, make this box no longer light tight, and then it'll effectively ruin the camera. It has a very simple, mechanically safe, simple shutter, so they are pretty reliable. As long as you don't get dirt and water, and then they'll last for a long time. It has the cloth neck strap is permanently attached. I've actually thought about cutting this a few times and making an adapter for different neck straps like this, but never have. I honestly don't think I ever will. And if you want to use filters on this camera, it has a 28.5mm push-on filter diameter, so the filters push on, they don't screw on. Lastly, don't touch the lenses, either the taking lens or the viewing lens. Don't leave your camera in your car because it can be damaged by the heat and the cold. Don't store your camera in a plastic bag or closed container because moisture can cause fungus to grow on it. And don't let your camera get wet. Even though it's a toy fun camera, it can still deliver really good results, and they're a heck of a lot of fun to use. These are really, really fun cameras. If you have one, I definitely recommend using it because it's a good time and very simple. You don't have to worry about all the technical details of the photography. What's my aperture, and my shutter speed, and it's all taken care of. It's one setting, and you can't change it, and that makes it easier to focus just on the composition of the photo, which is really the most important thing, and you can have a lot of fun using one of these. So just remember, if this video was helpful, please give me a thumbs up. That lets me know I'm on the right track. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section. I'm pretty good about responding fairly quickly. If you have suggestions for future videos, let me know. If I have the technical know-how and the equipment, I'm more than happy to film those for you. And lastly, before I go, thank you guys for watching.